G'day and welcome back, everybody. Another episode of this Upside Fantasy Sports podcast, another YouTube video if that's your preferred method of uptake. Really appreciate if you're on YouTube and giving it a like, obviously a subscribe and a comment. That's been awesome. A bit to get through today. We're back after a couple of sort of bye impacted rounds and whatnot. I've had a pretty gnarly sort of head cold late last week and over the weekend while I was on a mountain biking road trip, so I've had to really sort of buckle down and push through, reminiscent of a few Origin performances with injuries and whatnot, and Jakey Granville with a bicep. That's how I felt, sort of pedaling up mountains while I could barely sort of breathe. So pardon me if I have to take a few more sips of water when I bash through this tonight. It is what it is. And moving on to the footy side of things, can't believe it's round 15. I know we all froth draft. We look forward to the NRL season, fans and as sort of SuperCoach and fantasy players buzzing around draft, and now it's like, we've been all whinging and complaining about our various issues, and for 15 weeks already, it feels like it's been 6 weeks. I cannot believe it. This might only be episode 13 or something, and only the fourth or fifth week I've pushed this potty out, and I think things are going pretty well. I think the quality of the content's pretty solid, especially the efficiency of the content. You can get your information from me in under sort of 30 minutes. And I've made a tweet earlier today around sort of some of the accuracy of the matchup data and the recommendations I had for plug and plays last week beyond just matchup data. So where the data was strong, they sort of delivered, as well as I had I punted on recommending Grant Anderson. He's a bit of a trier and he came through from a SuperCoach perspective last week. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. And obviously the main thing is how buzzing the community is in our Discord. So if you're not in the Discord and you're looking to join, please get a hold of me in any way, shape or form, and we'll get you in there. There's heaps of good blokes talking about their teams, giving advice on trades, chiming in, dropping all sorts of things they find online that are SuperCoach relevant. So absolutely the place to be. It's a hub of activity around draft if you love it, like the rest of us. Apart from me battling on, I think I'll kick into things. Might just start. Actually, what I want to do when I start off is just do what I did last week. If you're new here, I do this each week. Obviously, a TLT run through and my waiver wire and free agency recommendations I mentioned throughout the team list, but I also run through them all at the end, and they'll be in the YouTube video description as well at the end. I upload that too. But if you're looking for a full list, I do that at the end of the video or the potty, and I do mention it throughout. But what I also do is usually on a Wednesday night, I record my matchup preview or weekend look ahead, whatever you want to call it. Here's a little insert of what that looks like. I sort of do the same style of content where it's just a graphic based presentation, and you can see that I've got positional matchups and are sort of a matchup ranking beside them. But this coming week's podcast, I've expanded it to, I think, 5 positive matchups and 3 negative. So there's even more insight for you guys. It took a bit of work, but got it done. So looking forward to that. So if you're new here, this is what I also do. So click subscribe and chime in for that. I smash that one out each week, again in under 30 minutes. So you can just put it on while you're driving, while you're on the treadmill, on the bike, in the gym, cooking dinner, whatever it is, and get that insight into your weekend ahead in next to no time, and going, oh well, I've got these 2 sort of fringe centre wingers, which one should I play? Mate, take the upside gamble. If you have questions about it, I use that data to answer questions. So chuck your questions in the form that I put up before I record, and I'll make sure I get to your question based off footy sort of insights and matchup data. So if you're new here, definitely check out that other potty that I do run through. But let's crack onto these team lists and matchups. The first game of the round is the Sharks versus the Finns, and it should be a pretty good game, I'd expect. The Sharks are humming, and I think the first call out from the Sharks side is that Daniel Atkinson is the one to give way with Nicho Hynes returning and Tricky Trindall retains his spot. To me, from a footy perspective, that was just super evident that Atkinson had very little ball playing ability. We saw so little quality ball for Niukore and Rami and toward the line. So as much of Atkinson was a trier and a solid runner of the ball here and there, Trindall provides the same stuff, but he's a much better sort of ball player in my opinion. You know, he's creating for the players outside of him. Literally nearly every game this year, I reckon he's nearly put on a try for someone outside him through his sort of passing ability, or at the very least ability to execute the Sharks' intended shape. So yeah, interestingly enough, Atkinson gives way. So Trindall, who I've been shouting out as a solid plug-in as 5'8", he is, yeah, I don't think he's a must roster, but yeah, he continues to deliver at 5'8", in my opinion, at a sort of low end level there. I shouted out Talakai. He had the statistical matchup, and if you played him, you got rewarded with, I think it was like a 75 plus 80 plus score, and he retains the spot. So Teague Wilton's AC joint injury, and he's not on the reserves there, Teague. He must be a grade 2 or 3, because that looks like he's going to be out for 2 to 3 more weeks still. Hammer's back, which is awesome for me and hopefully other Hammer owners. There's nothing really on that Dolphins side that I thought to mention other than Lemuelu is still starting, and Aiken's been doing an amazing job. So yeah, that's really it for me. I wonder if with Kenny Bromwich there at 8 and Felice Kafusi, does Josh Kerr get more minutes? But it's probably Nichols. Yeah, Kerr, he's an interesting one in really deep leads potentially. Keep an eye on the dual eligibility is handy. The next game is the Raiders versus the Cowboys. I just thought, there's not a lot of changes here. McLean is managing an issue with his sort of like calf or hammy, so he could give way, but I don't think it has like major implications. But if you do own him, be cautious. Robson's back in. Vailea had a down game, but yeah, I think he's still someone to look at in really deep leagues as a 4th CT dub. Don't know whether this is necessarily a matchup. I mean, maybe it is. Like the Cows have been pretty good at scoring the footy. So yeah, I still think he's just worth shouting out. For the other thing I noticed for the forward pack for the Raiders was that bench: Trey Mooney, Emre Gula, Adam Mariota, Tom Starling. Does it mean big minutes for Smithies? I don't really care for him, but that's something I thought was interesting. Or Tarpanay owners, who I think before that big score the other week, Tarpanay was a pretty interesting buy low option. If he has a couple more down weeks, I think that remains the case. I'm going to get through this one quickly. That was pretty mid-game. Again, this one, there's not a lot of changes. Davvy Moale had a big score because he scored a try, but he is someone I've called out, I believe, 2 weeks ago. I don't know if I followed up last week because they were on the bye, but yeah, he's one to monitor. I think he's worth a stab in the dark in deep leagues, and if you've just got the ability to rotate front rows in, maybe pick him and see if it sticks, what he's doing. Tristan Sailor's at fullback because Walsh still has more time on the sideline with that head injury, head trauma sort of stuff. So he'll be... not head trauma, but brain trauma related with the concussion. So he has to do the stand down. Nothing else really stands out at me except that I think Josiah Karapani will potentially come in and Cobbo will move to the right centre because I think Stags had that PCL issue. Don't know why it's not reflected in the team lists. Just keep an eye on it. And if Karapani does come in, man, we've seen what he can do. I think he's definitely a waiver option for certain people in certain situations, chasing CTWs and whatnot. Just because he's shown that he can score SuperCoach points and that, Mam and stuff on that left edge, aren't afraid to use him. Not much else standing out for me on the Bunnies, except that Cam Murray is now on the interchange, so I don't know how long Keon Kolomatangi will serve as the lock, and does Murray go to the edge, or does he come on and push Keon Matangi to the edge, and then Jairo rotates the middle, or Chikam rotates the middle. So yeah, a lot of implications there. So just be cautious I don't know if you'd be rostering those guys, but yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, just be cautious if you are in a must win and you playing with any of those guys that could have their minutes impacted. Sorry, I'm battling with this sort of head cold as the sun goes down. But we push on. Coruscant's moved into the halves with the young fella dropping out with a wrist injury. Talon De Silva, therefore, is hookup. I thought it's interesting playing Pole on an edge when Seyfarth seemed to do a job, so that was interesting. Did Seyfarth not have the legs? Is he better through the middle? I don't know what the deal is there, but it probably doesn't have a lot of repercussions from a draft perspective. What does, though, is that Kinney retains the fullback spot as Campbell comes in and remains as the 6. Chris Randall then goes to the 9 spot, and yeah, when Brimson comes in, I assume he will push Kinney out. So Kinney retains some some value over the coming month or so, which is great for people that own him or have him handcuffed to Brimson. It's a really effective handcuff there, because I don't foresee Brimson finishing the year healthy with the way his body tends to fold on him after every 2 or 3 games. So yeah, Kinney, really good handcuff as it stands. Moving on. Warriors v... Did I even mention that was the Tigers v the Gold Coast? I probably didn't because I'm fading, but it's a pretty mid game. I had Klese Haas highlighted actually, but because he played 79 minutes or something like 70 minutes and then 80 minutes or the other way around. Just keep an eye on it. Like, he's not the best, but in a deep league, like, he could do a job. Be great if he was front row eligible. But yeah, keep an eye on Klese Haas. I had Mofot highlighted because he's just been so abysmal. Even when he's been given the minutes, I cannot believe his PPM. Like, even you thought Origin might kickstart him. Maybe it does another round of Origin. Does it? I can't believe it. It's so disappointing for Mofot owners or drafters. It probably took him pretty high off last year's 65 average. Sean Johnson's back in the Warriors v Storm matchup. The Warriors have been on a roll. The Storm are on a roll. This will be really interesting. Probably expect the Storm to do a number on the Warriors, but who knows? Maybe they've figured it out playing Niukore on an edge and Jackson Ford in the middle with Wade Egan returning. That does make them a little more formidable. Niukore, he only played 48 minutes. I sort of liked him in the sense that, you know, like he's a good runner of the ball and whatnot. Like, but I don't think those minutes with, you know, Capewell there and whatnot make him relevant. So. Just a watch guy. Grant Anderson, I shouted out. Yeah, he'll do a job for you. Even in this game, I think he's fine to fire up. Like, don't get me wrong, he's not the world's best player. But there's something about him that's really active. Does have a bit of toe out there, and they like to go there. You know, Jerome Hughes creates a lot as Katoa sucks in the defense. We've seen Meaney just dominating Supercoach wise, and he's not even. Yeah, Meaney's not even that crazy like ball runner, but just what Katoa and Hughes can create, and Farlongo prefers the right side too. It creates a lot of space. So Anderson is the beneficiary of that. Whereas, like, I don't think William Warbrick really could capitalize on those half chances. He just doesn't have sort of like acceleration, which Grant does. So Grant could have that spot rest of the season. The Storm have a great finals run. So if you're feeling really peckish and toey for it, man, Grant Anderson, he could be a nice speculative little stash there. Just potentially, I don't know. Dino Eremia comes in for the injured Remus Smith. Don't know what his relevance is. I don't think Tyron Wishart can't really pass, which is why Blaw's battling, or he can pass, but he doesn't want to pass. And I think then Eremia will be the same sort of result there, sadly. Next game is the Eels versus the Roosters. Sivo's back in, and the main call out for the Eels as well is Blaize Talagi as a winger is a completely different prospect to Blaize Talagi as a centre. Love him on the wing. He can run, he can do his kick returns, he plays with a lot of panache, a lot of energy, and he can score tries being on the outside of the Mitch Moses edge. So, man, Blaize Talagi, I think he's a certified waiver this week because he could be the winger rest of season now that he's held the spot and Sean Russell remains in the centres. So, yeah, love it for Blaize. And if anything happens to Gutho, he goes back to fullback and you've already got him on your roster. So, yeah, I think he's a really strong speculative waiver. I wouldn't burn like a number one necessarily, but yeah, if you're just one of those teams that's up the top and you've got space and you want to take an upside punt, there's a chance Talangi's a pretty solid centre winger for you, and then could potentially be a centre winger that plays fullback if anything happens to Gutho, or you know, the season they shut the season down after a few more losses, you know, and he goes there to develop or whatever. Yeah, it's a really interesting proposition for Blaize Talagi. Kelma Tuilagi presents as a solid sort of plug and play as he retains that edge spot, and I don't think he came off last weekend. So, yeah, it does bode well for Kelma Tuilagi, he's making a fist of it in some respect out there. He never was really relevant, and I still think he's sort of an injury head knock guy. My memory tells me that. But I still think he's someone that'll do a job for you in deep leagues. Pauga's the same as a centre winger in the Roosters. He just seems to score sort of Supercoach points. Pauga does. So yeah, he remains a solid plug and play. I think the week I recommended him as a plug and play, I think he might have got 50 2 weeks ago, maybe. Can't really remember. He's no world beater, but yeah, he's in a really high powered Supercoach offense. So I think it's worth worth grabbing him. I don't know if I'd waiver for him because how long's old mate got left? Like 3 to 4 weeks. But definitely a strong plug and play. Watson's the 9 with Smith falling away. Naf Whyte retains the lock position, which is fascinating for owners. That's a really positive sign. Sandon Smith's on the interchange, who will sub out Connor Watson, but does Connor Watson go to 13? Not sure. So, yeah, could be good or bad for White. We really don't know. Sucks for the Terrell May owners that he's back on the interchange, but yeah, you're just playing Terrell May because we've just seen what the guy can do. He's an absolute freak. Lehi Hopoate was really interesting to me last week before the game. You know, he held the spot, he scored well. I loved the way he just like sort of effortlessly assisted 2 tries in his debut. And then, yeah, he had another try assist against the Panthers. Didn't love the work rate and the frame's kind of small, but I mean, you could do worse. I still think he's probably a waiver because Tommy, I don't know how far away Tommy is, but that fullback spot seems to be Hopoate's, and he can, you know, he can set up tries. So like as a short-term fix or they cover the both buys, Manly. So yeah, that's why I grabbed him for if Teddy goes back to Origin. Lord save me if he does. But yeah, I think Hopoate is an interesting prospect or a perfect guy to trade to the Tommy owner and say, hey, I've got this guy. He's clearly like the handcuff. Like, give me a low-end deal and you can upgrade something else. Like the Tommy Turbo owner in my league has a lot of really strong CT dubs. So I could come to him and say, hey, here's Lehi Hopoate and a CT dub. Can you give me one of your better CT dubs? And you get the security of like a fullback. And when Tommy's back, you know, you haven't lost all of your CT dubs sort of thing. And that's how I'd parcel that trade up. Looks like I'm sort of losing it there, but an upgrade in an important SuperCoach positions is a trade worth making to me every day of the week. I think Tommy Talau is worth a look. I wouldn't burn a high waiver for him, and I'm not saying this just after last week's scores, but he's had enough rocks and diamonds games where, man, as a 4th, 5th CT dub, that's what you want. You want a guy that on matchup you go, well, there's a pretty strong likelihood this guy's going to cross the stripe. So thinking this week especially, I'll do the matchup potty tomorrow, but I think Tommy Talau is definitely worth a look for people looking for a 5th or 4th CT dub. Manly are sort of going to score their points, and they've got a pretty good finals run from memory. Like I think it's not as good now that some of the teams have solidified who they are. We've got an identity over some of these defenses now, and a few teams we thought were bad are actually good. Like look at the Bulldogs, for example. But you know, it's enough, and it's worth calling out. Nothing worth really mentioning on the Dragons side. I think Sully had a good game, but they're not going to score 50 every week, so I'm not too bothered. And I think was it Max Feagai has had 2 back-to-back 70s. I'm calling it out, but I'm not making any suggestions until I see a bit more of it. And as I said, not every game is against the Tigers for a 50 piece. Leilua needs to probably be owned at this juncture, though. I think he was 34% owned. I think it's 34% owned, which is a bit too low for a guy that should be getting you 50 plus nearly every week, and then he has upside. So he's on the wrong edge, but I do like him. Eisenhuth, again, he'll do a job. He had a big score, but yeah, like his dual eligibility is handy in a pinch to RF CT dub. That helps during the buys. So if he's around, probably get your hands on him. People are going to grab Ben Trbojevic. They can do that. I'm not going to sit here and say grab Ben Trbojevic necessarily. Like him and his brother's hammies, like that's just not how I like to play the game, but other people won't care. So if you play like a deep 3-2RF league, he's definitely worth an option. I believe Olakau'atu, like I don't know how he dodged that issue, but he's been named. But yeah, that's one to watch whether he comes out. Gordon Chan Kum Tong is not much chop. I don't know how what's his face isn't starting. Lawton and Chan Kum Tom suck, so they should be playing the young Tigers guy. They just got fully blanking on his name. But yeah, it's tough to watch, man. Seabold, he is an absolute, odd character for me trying to stay polite as a Broncos fan. It's hard to sort of watch Seabold's decisions sometimes, having been through an era of him. The last game of the round is the Knights. Oh, did I miss anything? Nah. The last game of the round is the Knights versus the, who are they? The Panthers. Fletcher Sharpe retains the spot. So either Armstrong got sort of faded out, as many people predicted, or he's just a bit better, or like doesn't annoy the coach, or whatever it may be. Fletcher Sharpe over Armstrong. So yeah, he's definitely a high waiver because a fullback like him, a fullback like Hopoate, a fullback like Blaize Talagi, we've seen these young guys, man, they come in pretty well developed at sweeping. And I think what I've seen of the three of those guys, not as much Hopoate, but Talagi and Sharpe, what I've seen, and even Armstrong, the young fullbacks have a really good sense of when to hit the accelerator in the red zone on the sweep, like when to just hit the gas and go themselves. And I think that is what you want out of a SuperCoach player. And you're just going to get a solid base out of a fullback with kick return runs. So, yeah, grab Fletcher Sharpe if he's around and you've got the energy, the space, and the waiver priority. I'd go pretty high because why not? And I'm not too worried about Ponga returning in the next couple of weeks, that's for sure. That is the thing, though. Like, when you're thinking about a 1 to 3 waiver, is that worth it with Ponga around the corner? Probably not, but I mean, it's just everyone plays the game differently. Some people might want Sharpe as trade bait to the Ponga owner going, oi, this is the new Armstrong, get a slice of it. You know, that's how you got to think, guys. You got to be thinking, well, what's Sharpe's value to someone else as well? Like, if you've got waiver 2 or 1, it's like, well, you get him, but it's not really Sharpe that you're targeting. You're targeting Sharpe as a trade chip for a little upgrade somewhere, a little better CT dub, better 2RF. Give him Sharpe and a 2RF, get a better 2RF. That's how you got to be doing it. The freaking Lucas Pierce-Paul Frizell conundrum continues. It is the bane of my existence at the moment, apart from hamstring injuries. Kai Pierce-Paul is fucking awesome. I'll just say it. But the thing is, so is Dylan Lucas. They're both different players, but they're both awesome. I love what I see from Kai Pierce-Paul. I remember getting into a bit of a stupid Twitter back and forth with some Knights fan telling me to let O'Brien cook when he rested Kai Pierce-Paul or put him on the bench. Man, I think, was it one of their only tries was generated from Kai Pierce-Paul's ability to offload and ball play. He's absolutely sick, and his defense is so solid. He's got great base for SuperCoach. I think he's great. Frizell looked pretty mid, but yeah, he's a leader, and someone rightly mentioned in the Discord, he's been named captain too. So I think he's locked that spot down. Lucas will either play through the middle, he'll either rest Frizell, or he'll rest Pierce-Paul, or he'll push Frizell into the middle. Hoping it's the latter, because we want Frizell playing high minutes. I think he's a waiver if he's been dropped, if he's named and to start and whatnot. But for Lucas owners, it's you've got to hold Lucas. He's way too good to drop straight away. But yeah, it's disappointing to see. But we'll see what happens next. Edwards is back in. Laurie's to the interchange. I expect if the Panthers get up, Laurie will come in for Edwards because Laurie was sick last week. Loved his running yardage, his effort plays, Dane Laurie. Sorenson and Garner are there. Sucks for Liam Henry owners, but I warned you last week Garner would come back in once they re-signed him. I think that was evidence that they want to that he's a starting forward for them when healthy. Obviously, when it's Sorensen and the Origin player Liam Martin, Garner probably has a different role where he pushes Sorensen into the middle or back to the bench and rests him in that respect. But yeah, I think Liam Henry, as good as he was on an edge to an extent, yeah, that was always short-lived because I think he's a middle forward for them. Jack Cole has the spot over, sorry, I'm blanking late in this piece, Brad Schneider, which is interesting. But Cole's been really good, so I can't hate on it. But Schneider was really good too, so yeah, good problem to have for Cleary. And I wonder if Schneider was just brought back a bit too early with that knee, and maybe it's well, Cole's doing a job. Lua has been really good at 7, and so let's let Schneider heal up. And does he then eventually replace Cole for that goal kicking and other things that Schneider does have? I'm not sure. And then also that presents the opportunity for Luai to get dual position after playing 7 for 3 weeks. So that's interesting for Luai owners. I'll be using that as trade bait. If someone needs a half, I'll go, here's Jerome Luai, half 5/8, give me something else. That's if Cleary ever comes back healthy. Otherwise, I'm going to be running Luai out there. That's really it for that one too. Questions. I'm going to quickly check questions. I don't think we've got any freshies, which is fine. Oh, that's it. Awesome. Well, that's great. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the potty. I'm going to run through my list before I get off because I nearly forgot. My waiver pickups, I still think Lehi Hopoate and Fletcher Sharpe are both pretty high waiver priorities because of the fact that they have value to the owner of the fullback that they're replacing, as well as week-to-week value as players, and they have good buy coverage to both of them. Bryce Cartwright, if he's not owned, I think it should definitely be owned. Nafauhu Whyte is a really interesting upside gamble in your front row. Connelly Lemuelu, Luciano Leilua, Tyson Frizell all need to be owned, I think, at this point as 2RFs. I think Blaize Talagi is a really strong upside gamble waiver as a centre with potentially more, but I could be daydreaming about them all, but as a short term. But yeah, for now, while he's a winger, I think he needs to yeah, he's definitely a waiver possibility. Davvy Moale is an upside waiver possibility or a plug if you want to go that way as a front rower. Corey Jensen has been a bit down, but I still think he should be owned as a front rower from a just consistency perspective. We spoke about Viliame Vailea. I don't think he's really a high waiver, but definitely if he's there and frees, he's fine as a CT dub with some solid base in a team that does have attacking upside. Sorenson and Garner need to be owned. More on the plug-in perspective is Kelma Tuilagi, Klese Haas, Trent Loiero, Tommy Talua, Talangi again is both a plug or a waiver. Low-end waiver, that is obviously. Braydon Trindall, Junior Pauga, Sean Russell. I don't love that one, but I've written that for some reason, so there was some logic there that I've forgotten. Grant Anderson, certainly, which I mentioned. Sifa Talakai, certainly, as I mentioned. Marata Niukore, I don't love that anymore, so scrap that. And then if you want to get ahead of the crowd, I think Blake Wilson has a lot of after the bye has some more value while ever Josh Adokar, he just couldn't find the try line. Blake Wilson, he's a super hard runner, super fast. So that, and I've seen that Connor Tracy's only 54% owned as of the recording this. So I think he's definitely a waiver priority, Connor Tracy, if you want to get ahead of the pack. It's not flash, but man, the Bulldogs are playing good footy. So get their fullback who you can play in your CT dubs. It's sort of a no-brainer. So that's really it from me in regards to banging out the list. And in regards to the potty, guys, I'll be back tomorrow with the matchup preview. Hopefully I'm feeling just that little bit better, so less scratching my face due to allergies and whatnot, and sounding like a busted. But yeah, thanks for watching and listening. Any questions, obviously hit me up. Keen to talk waivers and free agency advice. And yeah, we'll do the matchups tomorrow. And yeah, the questions, I'll check them again tomorrow night. So if you've got any ideas or thoughts or issues, chuck them in the the question form that is on my Twitter pretty much all the time. And I do post it in the Discord pretty regularly. That's it, lads. Thank you so much, and we will talk soon.